Breaking news in the CBS Sports HQ, the Western Conference down to 1. The Phoenix Suns moving on as they better the Clippers 130-103 in a decisive Game 6 matchup. Leading the way, Chris Paul with 41 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, and 3 steals. Stat stuffing in a closeout scenario. Devin Booker playing the sidecar role with 22 of his own, but it was a wholehearted effort out of the Suns, who put things away in the second half. Paul George did continue his 20-point streak, but left plenty to be desired in this spot. The Suns moving on to represent the Western Conference in this year's NBA Finals. For more, let's check in with our guy, Bill Reiter, CBS NBA Insider, standing by. Bill, we have the Western Conference representative set in stone. The Phoenix Suns headed to the NBA Finals for the 3rd time in franchise history and for the first time since 1993. Put this moment into perspective on the tail end of an exciting Game 6.
Yeah, I mean, this is a remarkable accomplishment for certainly everyone involved in that Suns organization, Joe. But I think there's a special shout out that has to go to Chris Paul. I know the Suns were undefeated in the bubble last year, but this was not a winning basketball team. It's not been a winning tradition. They've had some turnover in their front office, going back the last several years. Obviously, Monty Williams comes in as the coach of the year, and the addition of Chris Paul, and we saw it in a phenomenal game in this evening, in this closeout, in this path to the finals. And I think his arrival and his willingness and his ability, for whatever reason, to bring out the best in these young guys is absolutely a testament to this guy's greatness and his level of play, even at what is supposed to be a pretty advanced age for a point guard.
Yeah, season number 16, Chris Paul's arrival right on time as we look at the Game 6 numbers. 41 points, shot at 66% from the field, was unconscious from behind the three-point arc, really just putting his foot to the floor here down the stretch. Paul from three-point range, 7 for 8 from long range. It used to be something that we knocked Chris Paul about, was his three-point shooting, but set to make his first ever finals appearance, taking this team, as you said, from outside the playoff picture to the top of the conference in 1 year's time. Phoenix was much more prolific as a team offensively on Wednesday night. Suns were averaging 95 points per game over their last 4 games. They had 97 through 3 quarters in this one, led by Paul. They pour in 130 in this matchup. What did you see differently offensively for Phoenix in this closeout effort?
Yeah, two things, 4 words: Devin Booker and Chris Paul. And obviously Chris Paul at the end. I mean, Chris Paul had, I think, 31 points in that second half, 19 in the fourth quarter. But these were, Joe, you and I talked about this. We sort of supposed, although it wasn't certain, that Phoenix would win this series eventually, because we felt like eventually Devin Booker or Chris Paul, and maybe both of those guys, would play great basketball. That hadn't been true the last 2 games, as the Clippers had chopped away a little bit at that series lead. And Devin Booker, certainly early in the game in that third quarter, I thought was aggressive, attacked the rim, hit some big shots. When the Clippers started to have some moments of momentum, he was there. And then you have this fourth quarter in particular, and CP3 was great the entire game, especially the second half. But the moment DeMarcus Cousins gave him the little elbow into the side of the head, whether you think it was a Chris Paul flop or a Cousins dirty play, I happen to think it was the latter. From that moment on, CP3 took over the game. And so you had a Devin Booker who, in this moment, maybe not feeling the injury as much, on his face with a broken nose, really stepped up for big parts of the game. And then Chris Paul played in the way superstars do when they're challenged, when they're physically challenged, when they feel like guys come at them and are a little dirty. The true great step up and take over, and that's what CP3 did. No doubt he did. They were also aided by Deandre Ayton, who got inside and got dirty, as he has all series long. 16 points, 17 boards, Bill. Just how important has the big man been to this effort and moving towards now an NBA Finals? Yeah, huge. I mean, I think Chris Paul is the most important player on this team. I do think Devin Booker is the best player on this team consistently, but DeAndre Ayton might be, the most impactful because of what he has done relative, Joe, to what I think people expected this season. I love you brought up the rebounding, because there were moments in that game where Booker put his head down, and a few times where CP3 did, but especially Booker, where he just went to the rim, threw the ball up, and had some nice shots. But I remember something he said earlier in the regular season. It's after some random game where he said, we know DeAndre is going to be there to clean up the glass, and it gives us confidence to be aggressive, go into traffic against good defenses, and just try to get our shots off if that's what we need to do. And DeAndre Ayton's ability defensively as a rebounder, offensively as a rebounder, on the pick and roll, you're right. I mean, he has played, not only use the word finally as a put down, but he's played up to that expectation that folks had several years ago when he was taken with the #1 overall pick. And his ability to be a star, to be great, to be remarkably impactful, when you throw that in with Booker and Chris Paul, it makes this team exactly what they actually are now, and that is a true, legitimate, absolute championship contender.
Yeah, you're always going to be measured relative to those in your draft class and also those selected right behind you. We're talking about Trae Young and Luka Doncic, and Ayton, the big man, is stating his claim in the league as he comes into his own over this playoffs. 47-32, the Phoenix Suns out-rebound the Clippers here in the decisive Game 6. Bill, it's been a postseason just riddled with injury, and that's going to kind of be the story moving forward. The Suns have been the one team that have had a chance to catch their breath. They had 4 days between the Lakers and Nuggets series, full week between the Nuggets and here with the Clippers, and they could be looking at another full 7 days of rest before the finals tip off, depending on how things play out in the Eastern Conference. Bill, how pivotal have these layoffs been for Phoenix to just get off their feet, get right, and continue that quest for their first ever franchise title?
Joe, you hit it. I think it's been instrumental in where they've gotten to, and very likely where they're going to end up when this thing is done. Normally, you wouldn't want that much time off, especially heading into an NBA Finals. You want to be in rhythm. But this is going to be a season, and we've seen this. You just said this. It's exactly right. That is defined not just by the best team, but really the healthiest team. They were able to weather a Devin Booker injury, right? That nose injury. That they've been able to weather that. He was great in this game. They've had some Chris Paul injuries. They've had the safety and health protocols for COVID in this series. And remember that a pretty serious, we thought, shoulder injury in the opening series against the Lakers, and the ability to have that time you mentioned and to heal has been instrumental. And so if you're the Suns, not only have you made the finals, not only do you have some time to get right physically, you're also looking out at an Eastern Conference where it's either the Atlanta Hawks or the Trae Young, who's not 100%. And if they get to the finals, you hope Trae Young's there, but you don't know what shape he's going to be in physically. And even though relatively good news on Giannis, you don't know where Giannis is going to be in the series, or if he's in the series, how he's going to be physically. So the Suns have the best of both worlds. The time to heal against a team, whoever emerges from the East, that are banged up and will not have that same advantage.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.